She rises tonight, bringing her beauty, but also her power. For the moon sends out a call, and those that dwell in the dark answer it. Tonight's full moon tale is the final report. A story of a detective investigating a series of attacks. However, he'll find that there's much more than seems to be on the surface. He will find darkness, dread, and death. I hope you enjoy. Police report. Detective Richard Miles. The following report is concerning the incident on the evening of July 13th, 2022. First, I wish to apologize for the tardiness of this report. I needed to make sure that I completely understood everything that took place that evening, and everything that I saw. I understand that my actions that evening have been called into question, and that many are requesting for my resignation. Herein, I will explain everything that I witnessed firsthand. I will leave it up to my superiors to determine whether my actions were called for, or if I become mentally unhinged after years of service. So here are the facts, in my own words. I ask not for forgiveness, but merely for understanding. It all started around 9:30. I was in my office working on a backlog of paperwork. It's funny. They tell you in the academy that the job is mostly paperwork, but I never believed it until I joined the force. I was about to wrap it up for the night when I got a call on the office phone. On the other side of the line was the receptionist at the Clark County General Care. As soon as I saw who was calling, I knew what this was about. There had been another attack. I wasted no time in throwing on my jacket and rushing towards the hospital. On my way there, my mind kept going back to the previous attacks. They started 6 months ago and seemed to happen randomly. At least once a month, we would get a call from the hospital saying that someone was in there injured and covered in blood. The victims' stories differed, but there were enough similarities that we were able to determine that these were related incidents. Some were in their car when something outside tried to force their way in. Other victims were attacked in a blitz on a nightly stroll. All of the victims, however, had been cut with multiple razor-sharp blades. The previous victim even had a pair of puncture wounds from an unknown tool. The only other thing they had in common was that no one ever seemed to see their attacker. It happened far too fast. We would search the surrounding area but find nothing. With no real evidence, all we could do was sit back and wait for another attack. I arrived at the hospital at 10:03 p.m. and found the receptionist in tears. She had been present for all of the previous attacks, so she should have known what to expect, and yet there was something different about tonight. She seemed more distraught, more scared. I asked her what was wrong, but all she could say was, so much blood. A moment later, Dr. Fred Donovan came out, and I was able to question him about his findings. He informed me that this victim was different. It hadn't just been attacked. It had been torn to shreds. He could confirm that it was likely the same tool. However, the brutality and the rage were like nothing he had ever seen before. The body was so mangled, they would not have been able to identify the victim had they not had their wallet in their pocket. I asked who had brought the victim in. He told me it was a stranger named Norma Fleming. I went out to the lobby to interview her. Below is the transcription of my audio interview with her. This is Detective Miles of the Clark County Police Department, interviewing Norma Fleming at 10:17 p.m. Miss Fleming, can I get you something to drink? No, thank you, Detective. I don't think I could stomach anything right now. Now, in your own words, could you please tell me what you experienced and how you came across the victim? I had just finished dropping my kids off for a sleepover at their friend's house. I was near the corner of Miller and Stanley when I thought I saw something across the road. I could see a mass of white and red shining in the moonlight, so I stopped the car. I was almost sick when I saw the man lying there. He was just on the ground, shaking. There was so much blood. I heard a gurgling sound. I thought it might have been a bullfrog, but then I saw his throat. He was trying to talk to me, but his throat was... In your own time, Nora. I knew this man was going to die, and I'm ashamed to say this, but part of me wanted to leave him there, to just drive away and hope I imagined the whole thing, hope that somebody else would come along and find him. But I couldn't do that. I couldn't let this man die alone. Now, Miss Fleming, did you see anything around the body? No, it was very dark, though. But there was a moment. When I was getting him in the car, I felt like I was being watched. I know that's silly, but I swear to you on everything I am, something out there was watching me. There was something else, too. A really powerful smell was there. I couldn't identify it, but it smelled like a dead animal. I don't know what it was, but it was strong. I know none of this is much to go on, and I'm truly sorry. It's all right, Miss Fleming. You've done a lot for us, and I thank you. Is there anything else you can tell me? Just promise me one thing. Promise me you're going to get this maniac. Whatever did this, it wasn't human. And I don't think I'll get any sleep knowing it's out there. After my interview with Miss Fleming, I proceeded to the crime scene. Thankfully, my team had been working it already. Aside from the victim's blood, there was no other evidence to be found. The consensus was that the victim must have been attacked inside the swamp and must have stumbled their way towards the road. This theory did not sit well with me. To run with that level of injuries is insane. Someone or something must have put the fear of God into this man. I peered out into that dark swampland and could see nothing. But that didn't stop the feeling of eyes on me, the same as it did Miss Fleming. It was about 11:22 when my phone rang. On the other end was my research assistant, Joe Rodney. He told me that he'd been analyzing the attack sites, and with the newest victim, there might be a possible clue. All of the attacks were in a 5-mile radius of Holland Swamp, particularly a small patch of land known as Reg's Lot. I shook my head because I should have figured that out sooner. Reg's Lot was a small patch of swampland owned by a man known only as Crazy Reggie. He lived alone in a small shack in the swamp. But apart from some death threats thrown at trespassers, he's never been a problem before. Although the thought scared me to death, I was going to have to enter that swamp to bring in Reggie. I looked at the swampland ahead of me and took a deep breath. I know this may seem odd to a hardened detective, but swamps and woods at night just seem to scare me. I always felt like I was not alone out there. I tried to tell myself that it was logical. Forests can be dangerous at night. You never know where you might step. And swamps were worse. However, I had to do what I had to do. So I took my step in and made my way towards Reg's Lot. The forest was very alive tonight. The sound of crickets chirping, frogs croaking, and branches cracking filled the air. It put me on edge, for it would be harder to hear someone sneaking up behind me with all this noise. I tried to keep my mind focused, but images of those destroyed victims just kept filling my mind. If Reg did this, then he is clearly much crazier than we gave him credit for. And here I was, inching my way towards his lair. I kept picturing myself torn to shreds like that last victim. Those images had me drifting towards my service pistol. I entered a small clearing when suddenly something changed. The woods became quiet, as if the critters that inhabited it were afraid. More than that, I felt not just a feeling, but a certainty that eyes were on me, watching my every movement very carefully. I felt my hand drift towards my service pistol again, but I instead opted for my flashlight, shining it into the dark. For the briefest of moments, I thought I saw 2 glowing red eyes in the dark, but they disappeared instantly. Probably just fireflies, I told myself. After a few more minutes of trudging through the swamp, I finally arrived at the shack. The shack looked almost Osbidian in the light of the moon. I called for Reg to come out, but only silence met me. I gently knocked on the door, and to my surprise, the door swung open. The first thing that hit me was the smell. The aroma wasn't just pungent, it was atrocious. I was reminded of Miss Fleming talking about a terrible odor that she smelled at the crime scene. It smelled like a dead body that had been rotting for a few days. But there was something more. a dark but familiar undertone beneath it all. I was about to give up and leave when I saw something on the wall that made my blood stop cold. On the wall of Reg's shack were pictures of all the victims. There were red X's over most of them, but last month's victim, Victor Cormack, had a big circle around him. There were several pictures of Victor everywhere. They were all candid and recent. I knew I had everything I needed to get a warrant to get his arrest right away. That was when I heard a voice behind me. "What are you doing on my property?" I knew that Reg was right behind me, and a new level of fear entered me. I turned around, and Reg's face went white. I knew that he was just as scared of me as I was of him. "Listen, I know why you're here and how this must look, but you have to believe me, I was not responsible for tonight's attack." I was stunned silent. Did he just admit to all the other attacks? Also, how could he be responsible for the other attacks, but not this one? I shone my light in his eyes, and he looked half mad, as if he's holding back intense rage. He slowly began reaching in his jacket pocket, and this time I did draw my service pistol. "I have no weapon on me, officer, but I need something in my jacket right away, please." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small pouch. He retrieved some sparkling powder and started to ingest it. The powder seemed to calm him down immediately, and he looked almost sane. I decided to try to reason with him. "Listen, Reg, I know you're a harmless man, but if those drugs are causing you problems, we can help you. Why don't you come back to the station with me? Have a nice hot meal and we can just talk." The offer made Reg grow tense again. "I can't come with you, Richard. I've got work to do. If you truly care about the safety of this town, then you'll let me go, at least for tonight." I let out a sigh, because I knew that there was no reasoning with him. "I'm sorry, Reg, but you know I can't do that. I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to come with me. I'm gonna have to bring you to the station." Reg's mouth began to quiver, and I swear I saw a tear in his eye. "Please," he begged. The following moments happened at such a pace that it's difficult to remember, but I'll do my best. Reg began to look distracted, and I would swear in all my years of service that I saw his ears twitch as if he heard something that I couldn't hear. Then Reg ran straight at me. I fired a shot, but it went high. He was just about upon me when I slammed the butt of my gun into his forehead. The blow took him down, and he fell limply to the ground below. I wasted no time in putting the cuffs on him, and began the slow process of taking him back to my car. I managed to get him into my car and began driving back to town, confident that I had finally caught the killer. On my way back into town, Reg started to come to. "Where am I?" "You're in a car going to the police station. Can you tell me your name?" "Reginald Lawrence North. Or call me Reg. Or hell, Crazy Reggie, I don't care." "Good. You don't seem to have a concussion. I'm sorry for hitting you back there, but I had to do what I had to do." "I understand, officer. No offense taken. You think I did it, didn't you?" "Just so we're on the same page, what is this 'it' you're referring to? If you want to confess, I'd be more than happy to take your statement at the station. I'll admit I attacked those people, but that fella tonight, that wasn't me. And I never killed anybody." "Then who did it, Reg? If you know something, tell us. Lives are at stake." "More than you know, officer. Now I just have one question. That fella tonight, is he dead?" "You know I can't tell you that, Reg." "I know you officers have your rules, but I'm not asking the officer. I'm asking the man behind the badge. Is he dead?" "Yes, he died." "I thank the heavens for that." "You consider it a good thing that a man is dead?" "In this case, yes, and you should be too." "Now tell me what you know, Reg. A deal is a deal." "Very well. I don't expect you to believe me, but..." Reg began to act very erratically. "My pouch. Where is my pouch? Did you take it from me? I need it now." "Whatever drugs you're on, Reg, you don't need them. Trust me." "You don't understand. I need it. Give it to me now!" Before I could respond, something big smashed into our car. I thought it was another vehicle, but there were simply none around. We crashed into a set of dumpsters outside of a building. For a moment, I just sat there in complete shock, but then I could hear something attacking the backseat window. Someone was trying to get into Reg, so I sprung into action. I leapt from the car and pointed my service pistol at the assailant. Before I could get a good look at them, they ran away and vanished into the night. I forgot all about Reg and gave chase. The suspect proved to be very fast. Every time I tried to get a good look at them, they darted around another corner. There was no time to call in backup. There was no time to even think. All I could do was give chase. Finally, I managed to corner them in a small dark alley. I aimed my pistol down the alley and told them to come out. I could hear the suspect panting, but it sounded far too low. Sounded almost more like a growl. At last, we've reached the part of the report that I cannot fully explain. The next few paragraphs will determine my fate. I only hope you can keep an open mind. I wish I could give a simple excuse, but I must tell the truth in this. It was in this moment that the clouds parted and the moon shone into the alley. The attacker's silhouette was lit by the moonlight, and there was something very wrong with them. The man was abnormally tall, standing well over 7 feet. His body was long and roped with strong muscle. I knew in an instant that this was no man standing before me, but a beast. His head was oddly shaped, with long ears that stood straight up. Where his mouth should have been, there was a long snout with rows of razor-sharp teeth gleaming in the moonlight. His fingers were long and tipped with razor-sharp claws. He seemed to be naked, except it almost looked like he was covered in a thick brown fur. The beast tilted his head, and I could see red glowing eyes, the same ones that I saw in the forest. I know that glance couldn't have lasted more than a second, but it's stained in my memory. I see it every time I try to fall asleep. I was so surprised that I almost dropped my gun, and I think that was the moment the creature was waiting for. The creature lunged straight at me. I managed to re-grip my pistol and shot a shot straight into it. The beast didn't even flinch. Instead, it swiped at me with those long clawed fingers. I moved at the last second, and the beast swiped at my jacket pocket where I kept Reg's powder. The contents flew into the air, legitimately sparkling in the moonlight. As the powder fell upon the creature, it seemed to cause it great pain, and it yelped. I knew this was my one chance. I took aim and fired a bullet straight through the powder and into the creature's chest. This time, the creature fell back. It fell right into the darkness, and I could hear it panting until finally it went silent. I shone my flashlight down the alley, but I was not prepared for what I saw. The body lying there was not a beast, but the naked dead body of Victor Cormack. This couldn't be right. I know I shot a beast, not a short, stocky, naked man. But that's when the onlookers came by. They had come to see what all the commotion was about. And when they saw his naked body and my smoking gun, that's when the cell phone cameras came out. And I knew, for better or worse, I was finished. I was about to defend myself when another loud noise rang for the night. The sound of metal tearing, glass breaking, and an inhuman roar echoed down the street, and I realized that I had left Reg alone in that car. I ran back to my vehicle, but I was again stopped dead at what I saw. Bulletproof glass had been broken from the inside, and the back seat was torn to shreds with claws. There was no sign of Reg anywhere. All that was left was a tuft of brown fur and the broken glass. So there you have it. I have said my piece, and I am resigned to the fact that I will no longer likely be working here. Perhaps it is for the best. This experience has made me weary, and I'm not the officer I once was. I still don't know what happened that night. However, 2 pieces of evidence have caused me to have possibly an idea. The first is that the lab came back with the results on Reg's pouch. The contents were pure powdered silver. The second piece is this. All the incidents, including my own, took place on the night of a full moon.